Hello and welcome to SciShow Tangents, the frightfully competitive science knowledge scream case. I'm your ghost, Hank Gangrene, and joining me this week, as always, is mad scientist, Scary Riley.
Boo.
And our resident Everywolf man, Sam Skulls.
Oh.
The old calendar on the wall says it's time for Halloween once more. And as you know, we here at SciShow Tangents love to get into the spooky spirit, and this year is no different. October will be trick-or-treat month, and Sam and Sari have invited some ghoulish guests over to Tangents Manor to join us this week and the rest of the weeks, I think. In fact, I think I can hear one of them approaching the door now.
Trick-or-treat.
Why, it's former Simpsons writer and showrunner and current internet food reviewer at large, author of Space 1969, Bill Oakley.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, how did we get you and your hamper full of Doritos?
Of chips. Wow.
You guys, somebody mentioned me on Twitter like a month ago from this podcast.
Okay.
And I believe one of you guys selected me as your preferred mystery guest. So
you're my dream guest.
Somebody tagged me in this, and I was like, sure, I'd love to be on the show. And then the rest is history.
Sam is living his dream life right now.
He never smiles this much.
Your reviews just make me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
I was rewatching the Velveeta Martini last night, just cracking up and also wishing I could have one.
Those were good, man. You're probably going to have to go to a lot of trouble to make your own from scratch, but it might be worth it if you want to spend $75 to make a cheese martini.
Yeah, they're cheese martinis with cheese on the rim, and then macaroni and cheese stuffed olives.
Yep.
And they were
good.
good.
Actually, shockingly good.
Look, I think that there are not enough things to spend $75 on that is gone immediately. Like all the things I spend $75 on, I have to look at them forever.
It's still in the house, yeah.
Yeah.
May I direct you to Las Vegas in that case? Not only can you immediately lose $75 in 1,000 different ways, but you could easily spend $75 getting a milkshake with a piece of cake jammed into the top of it, and it will be gone in a short period of time.
That's a
milkshake with a cake jammed into it does sound right up my alley. Every week here on Tangents, we get together to try to unnerve, disgust, and horrify each other with science facts, while also trying to stay on topic. Our panelists are playing for gory and for candy, and we will be awarding those as we play. And at the end of the episode, one of us will be crowned the King of Halloween. And if the guest is the treat of Trick or Treat Month, here is the trick. Our regular panel will take turns presenting games this month, and I will actually get to play along. But, as always, to introduce this week's topic, we're going to have a traditional science poem this week from our special guest, Bill Oakley.
Normally I get paid a lot of money to write this stuff, but I did this for free for you guys. So cool. And that's why it's not an example of my best work, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, don't worry. We all suck too.
It's going to be better than ours, and we're going to have to step up the bar, I feel like.
All right. Well, at least it rhymes. Okay, here we go. A refrigerator was installed in the school cafeteria after kids got sick from a harmful bacteria. Because foul bugs grow on many comestibles, turning them fast to indigestibles. If serious care with food's not taken, one's cheese or fish or fruit or bacon, without freezing, curing, or refrigeration, shall fast result in hospitalization. So pasteurize or please ferment such foods, and you'll prevent acute digestive ruination by using the underappreciated science of food preservation.
Ooh.
Oh no, that was the best one ever.
Such long rhymes. I go to one syllable rhymes.
Yeah.
No multiple syllable rhymes.
On topic. Hard words as well.
A bunch of multi-syllable words. We don't even venture into that world. So the topic for this week is preserved foods. And thank goodness we have them. Without them, we would all be very hungry. And not just recently. Food preservation has been going on for a very long time. So, Sari, can you tell me a little bit about what preserved foods are?
Food preservation is basically what Bill's poem said. If you leave food out for too long, food is just made of chemicals, like everything around us. And sometimes those chemicals are good and nutritious for us, and sometimes bacteria or fungi or other microorganisms decide to munch on the food before we get it in our tummies and
Yeah, 'cause
produce.
it's food.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems with food is that it's food, and so
Everybody
it's not just
likes
food
food.
for us. Everybody likes it.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't like it is plants. They're like, why'd you put that on me? I'm trying to see the sun. Except for some plants.
Except for
Sorry.
some plants,
Sarah's
yeah.
like, there are
I'm
some
like,
plants.
But well, actually, the carnivorous pitcher plant eats bat guano. But yes, so sometimes things eat it and then produce things that make our tummies upset when we eat the food after them. Sometimes the compounds in the food just break down in a way. So like oils, when they're exposed to oxygen, those big, long, fatty molecules get oxidized and break down into shorter chain fatty molecules like aldehydes, which are stinky. And so food preservation is anything to stop all that from happening, to keep our food just for us and not for other organisms, or to introduce organisms that we can eat safely.
And also food preservation, often you get it to a point where there's so much of the byproduct that it's not like safe in there for the microbes anymore. So you have all this vinegar or acetic acid. It's too acidic for anything to survive, including sometimes the original microbes, though not always. So they basically like poison themselves, just like we're doing with our atmosphere. But slower.
Well, yeah.
We've got time to figure it out, I think.
I have a question about brewing. So people did that to make water that was potable. Is this accurate? Were people always drunk a little bit back in the day?
I'll jump in here because this was covered in a lot of colonial histories in America. Because brewing, in one of the side effects of brewing is that it makes the water potable, and so that's why people, even kids, would be drinking beer or whatever for lunch. But like the beer was much weaker. Apparently, it was like 2% or less alcohol, so it's unlikely,
and that's fine to give the kids.
Yeah, totally.
Let's
Totally.
just have a good old time.
People who wanted to get drunk drank spirits back then.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's like one of the reasons why like apples were very important, because you could make some like a weak alcoholic thing from them, and then you'd have this safe thing to drink.
Good thing people were just leaving stuff out all the time back then, it seems like. Old milk, old water. I dropped my wheat in the water. Uh-oh. Turned out it was great.
Yeah. You're making a soup. You're making a wheat soup first, and then magic happens. Some kind of alchemy. Dionysus comes down and just touches it with a stick, and you get to have a party. So, Sari, do we know where the word preserve comes from?
Yes.
It seems like there'd be a good something there.
It's pretty solid in that it is from the late 14th century, from the word preservin, to keep safe or free from harm, or to make sure that something doesn't occur. But what was interesting is that when it comes to biological things, as far as I can tell, I might be reading too much into this, the noun preservative came into use more commonly and more frequently in the 15th century for a substance that preserves corpses. So anything like we were more interested in preserving corpses first, about like, okay, how do you make the dead people stop decaying? And then the sense of a chemical that we add to food to keep them from rotting is from 1875. And so preservative for a long time was like medical. We gotta Halloween. Something's dead and we want it to stop being gross, so let's preserve it as long as possible. And then we're like, I guess that's kind of what we're doing with food. We pick it from the tree and then it's dead, and then we want to keep it good as long as possible.
I would not have thought that preservative would reach that far back, and that's the only thing that makes sense as to why, because we were obsessed with that stuff. So like a lot of what we knew about like alchemy and chemistry came from people being paid lots of money to have dead people not rot.
In the spirit of Halloween, is a dead human corpse, you can cut this out if it's too grim, is a dead human corpse a preserved food? Would it belong
I mean, I suppose it could be.
Like a salami?
Yeah, is it like
no.
How far
How far
is
from a
mummy
salami?
and salami? or jerky,
People
like
were-
reindeer jerky from.
People were eating mummies,
Yeah.
correct?
People were eating mummies?
They were
Yeah,
grabbing
people
the
used to
mummy.
eat mummies.
People were sniffing the mummies, the ground up mummies
Yeah.
too. It was
Definitely sniffing.
craze.
I heard about that.
Yeah, there was so many spare mummies back in the day that you could just use them for anything.
Too many
And
mummies.
Yeah.
now.
Kindling. It's just, that's crazy. That can you imagine having such a surplus of mummies and they're like easily accessible? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you could just use them
Just
for
sitting
anything you
around.
wanted. It's crazy.
Sari, I'm going to venture that the ways that we preserved mummies probably made them inedible.
Yeah, I would think so too.
What chemicals did they use in mummies?
I don't know.
Oh no, I don't know.
Otherwise, they would just be like beef jerky. I mean, maybe they were like, well,
Just dry it out,
curing.
put salt on
Yeah,
it.
dried and cured meat is one of the key ways to preserving meat, and that could be
a
the
great
mummies
point.
just were that really essentially. I mean, that's why you can eat beef jerky that's years and years old.
They did use
Myrrh?
a naturally occurring salt containing sodium carbonate, sodium
I
bicarbonate.
think you can eat that. You can
Definitely,
soda.
yeah. Sodium chloride, just a salt.
That's salt.
Sodium sulfate is the one I'm
That
iffy
doesn't
about.
sound as good.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a.
Sulfur compounds
at least
seem a little
stink.
iffy.
What's that? Let me look up the MSDS for sodium sulfate. May cause gastrointestinal irritation with nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. May be harmful if swallowed. Maybe, though. Might be. Might not be, is what I'm hearing.
we can't not eat a mummy. That's basically
I just
the
Wants
answer.
found
a
the
little
phrase-
upset stomach to give it full
Yeah.
mummy flavor.
All right, everybody. Now it's time to move on to what is it? The quiz portion of our show, which I will be kicking off Trick or Treat Month with a. So humans have developed many creative approaches to preserving food, but we are not the only ones with concerns about the freshness of what we eat. Animals also have to worry about this, especially if they are stashing food for a rainy day, leading to different types of behaviors called caching that help animals keep their food safe from rot and from thieves. Now, the following are 3 stories of animals and their ingenious strategies for making sure their food lasts, but only one of them is true. So don't think all 3 of these are true, but you have to pick out which one is actually not a lie. Story number 1, American pikas store their favorite grass meals for winter in piles, but first, these high-altitude mammals pack their cheeks full of grass so that it can mix with antimicrobial compounds in their saliva, which keeps the grass from rotting after they spit it out into these grass piles. Or it might not be that one. It might be this one. Short-tailed shrews inject their insect larvae prey with venom that does not kill the meal, it just paralyzes it. Then they stash their paralyzed prey in their nests so that it's fresh for when they finally want to eat it, because it's still alive. Or it could be
Shrew venom, huh?
shrew venom.
Yeah, that
Okay.
we're gonna
Or-
revisit that.
Or it could be story number 3. Western scrub jays hide stashes of seeds by hiding them in the ground. To make sure that their stores can last for as long as possible, the birds often pick locations filled with a specific fungus that prevents the seeds from germinating. Which one do you think it is? Is it story number 1, pikas stuff their cheeks full of grass and antimicrobial saliva to create their winter stores? Story number 2, shrews paralyze their future snacks to preserve that freshly killed flavor? Or story number 3, Western scrub jays keep their seeds fresh with anti-germination fungus?
Shrew venom. Can a mammal have venom? Yes.
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 Platypuses have
Oh,
hind
platypuses.
foot spurs that are venomous that they can like jab into each other when they're mating. But I don't know about shrews.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a shrew with venom
Yeah.
besides
I'm
like
on the
taming of
same-
the
I
shrew.
mean, that's not the fact. So I will go ahead and tell you that yes, shrews do have venom.
Oh.
Ah.
Shrews. It is a real thing.
I still don't believe it.
That's the lie of
I
truth or
got
fail.
confirmation bias.
So their spit would have something with the beak cheeks that would
Use
keep
their
it.
spit. Yeah.
So they just hold it there. It
Yes.
just gets gooey
They
and
hold
then
it there, get it all gooped up, and then they spit it in the pile.
Here's what I think about the scrub jay. I think they want their thing to sprout. Isn't there something that wants their thing to sprout? So I'm not gonna go with that one's wrong because I feel like they'd be like, I'm planting this seed for my own future benefit.
I just don't know if they're smart enough. Planting seeds, it feels like it's always incidental with animals. Like, oh, I'm accidentally planting seeds. I'm gonna guess the shrew. I think I feel like it's so weird
Sari's
that
going
shrews have
shrew.
venom, and I didn't know that
Mhm.
that they might as well also be like little spiders storing their prey.
Well, what would their venom be for otherwise? I think it's the shrew as well. That's why they even have venom in the first place.
He came around.
They aren't going to fight anything bigger than them. They're only going to be going after little guys and making them sick.
Bill?
I think it's the pica. I think the other two sound like they're made up, even if they're not. They sound made up. The other one, that's the first one, the pica one, is so mild that I don't believe somebody would have gone to the trouble of making it up. But
that's where they get you sometimes, though.
This also happens when I listen to that show, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, where they make up these fake things, and I'm like, wait, nobody would have ever written that. But in this case, if you did write the pica one, my hat's off to you because it's so mild.
I feel that way about the scrub jay too. But here's the situation with pica. They don't hibernate, so they do have to create caches of grass. It's a process that they call haying. They will venture into the grassy areas around. They'll pick out specific plants. They'll bring them back to their homes, gather all that into little piles. And while rotting is a potential challenge, picas will forage for plants that have compounds in them that slow down bacterial growth, which could help keep the hay piles fresher for longer. But they do not use antimicrobial spit.
Well,
okay.
Hats off. That's a good one.
But short-tailed shrews do have a gland that is filled with venom, and when they bite into their prey, that venom mixes with their saliva and paralyzes the prey. That allows the shrew to stash it in their nest. And if the prey wakes up before the shrew is hungry, the shrew just bites it again.
That's horrible.
Back into paralytic preservation mode. Researchers have studied the venom to see if they can identify some of the proteins involved. And one research group has found a small protein called sauricidin in the venom, which they found can keep a mealworm paralyzed and alive for up to 15 days.
Oh, no.
Another research group found a glycoprotein called blarina toxin in the venom. And while those molecules are wielded by shrews as a weapon, they're interesting to scientists because they might be a way to treat different medical issues like migraines or diseases related to blood circulation. Scrub jays do bury seeds. And unlike what Sari was saying about squirrels, they actually kind of keep track of all of their caches. And if they see other birds around, they will move them. They'll be like, no, you can't have those. So they're quite clever, but they do not use a fungus to keep their seeds from germinating. The best part of having a guest on SciShow Tangents is when they just lose. They get blasted out of the water so hard by our expert guests that they never want to come back ever again.
You guys spend, I'm not going to be scared away by defeat.
That's right. No, we're all familiar with failure here on SciShow Tangents. Next up, we're going to take a short break, and then Sam has another devious game for us. Hello, welcome back, everybody. Sam has one, Sari has one, Bill has none, and I got one, I guess, because I fooled somebody.
Oh yeah, that's how this game works. I forgot. Yes.
All right, excellent. Look at me. Sam, you have a game now.
I do have a game.
What are we about to do?
My game is a new game, and it's called You Gonna Eat That? So humans have been preserving food for a long, long time, and occasionally that preserved food can get stashed away in a tomb, a cupboard, or just roll under the couch and just sit there for decades and decades. And because we are human, when we re-find this ancient preserved food, the first question that might pop into our heads is, can I still eat that? Which brings me to my game.
Absolutely.
So,
I love it. This
is
is Sam.
This is informative.
So phase one. Oh, it's a multi-part game as well. Phase one.
Oh, wow.
I will tell you about an ancient preserved food, and you will all tell me how old you think it is. The closest gets a point. And because I guess somehow I need to make points as well, phase two is you will tell me if you think anyone ate or drank this old food after discovering it. If you're right, you get a bonus point. If not, I get a point. Does this point system make any sense at all? I have no idea. I'm not Will Shortz, puzzle master of the New York Times, but I'm doing my best. Question one. Twinkies were invented in 1930 and are widely rumored to be perfectly shelf-stable and last forever. So, how old is the oldest known Twinkie? Sari, you go.
It's still around.
That's still around, yeah. From 1930 to now, anywhere.
I'm going to guess 50 years.
See, I was also going to say 50 years, but now I don't know if this is one of those Price is Right situations where if I say 49 years, I will be
we could box her in, and you could go 49, and I could go 51.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Real mean.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 45 years.
I'm going to say 65 years.
That's an old Twinkie. Here's the answer. The oldest Twinkie, the one that seemingly set off the whole Twinkies will be edible long after humanity dies off legend, is or was displayed at George Stevens Academy in Blue Hill, Maine for 46 years.
Oh,
So, Bill,
wow.
you were like exactly right.
Bill.
Wow.
This
I'm
is
sorry
your comeback.
I cut you off there with the 40 with the 45. Cut it so you would have won otherwise. But yeah, I mean, like the thing about Twinkies, everybody needs to say that they're not edible forever. They're edible for about a month, but they still look the same.
Yeah.
Like McDonald's burgers, same thing. There's McDonald's burgers around that have been sitting around for 50 years. In fact, somebody found them in a wall. Remember that? Did you see that like on the internet like a month ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not.
There was food in there still?
I thought there was food in there, wasn't there, in that bag?
Yeah. It was it looked like a burger still.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it didn't decay. It doesn't decay in the way that you would expect
But
things to
it's
decay.
not gonna. Yeah,
Not gonna
it's gonna
taste
be like
good.
leather.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Eating a burger made of wood.
second part of this question, regardless of whether or not it tasted good or should have been eaten, knowing the age of the Twinkie, did anyone eat this Twinkie? Sarah, you get to guess first. Just a simple yes or no. Did someone
I
eat
think we
this
should all
Twinkie?
go all at once.
Yeah.
Give us a countdown.
Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1.
No.
You're
No.
all saying no. Oh no.
Yeah, you kind of gave us a hint. I feel like once you discover the oldest Twinkie, you want to keep it around, see how long it lasts.
There's a real hazard of death from such a thing. I really think you could die from eating something, cream filling that's been sitting around for 45 years. No? Okay.
I think so.
I'd take it. I'd jump it.
Though this Twinkie began the immortal Twinkie urban legend, it also disproves it. Twinkies have an official shelf life of 25 days. Impressive for any baked good. But Twinkies do indeed die, as do we all. This Twinkie looks like shit and is presumably rock hard. So between that and the fact that this Twinkie is famous, no one's eaten it. And it's still at the school in a box on the principal's desk, I think.
Someday, future people will find it and they'll grind it into a powder to sniff it because it'll improve their virility.
Yeah.
That's very likely.
And then some chuckle fucks will talk about it on a podcast.
Exactly.
Even farther in the future than that.
Yeah.
Question 2. Curing meat is a method of food preservation that predates history. The oldest cured ham ever, however, is a little younger than that. How old is the oldest known cured ham?
Specifically ham. It's a ham that's sitting around.
Yes, and this
Okay.
time Bill
Who
goes first.
this
Bill
time?
goes first
Bill
this time.
Go.
The oldest cured
This is a
ham.
tough one. This is a tough one, and I could be way off the mark here, but I'm going to say 2,700 years.
Hank, give it a shot.
I'm gonna go deeper, and I'm gonna say 3,500.
Sari.
I'm going to go right in the middle of this because 3,200.
Okay. So though I imagine, like you guys intimated, there's got to be a tomb somewhere with an older ham.
Oh,
When
no.
you search the oldest ham, the oldest cured ham, what you find is that it was cured in a butcher shop in Smithfield, Virginia in 1902,
Oh, no.
then put in the back of a
no.
closet and forgotten about for 120 years.
Well, maybe they're just like, maybe hams are new. Maybe hams are pretty new.
That can't be true. They got to be at least 500 years old. When was the ham
Yeah.
invented?
When was ham invented?
Okay, well, while you look that up, ponder this question. Knowing the age of the ham is 120 years. Did anyone eat this ham? 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Yes.
All
We all
yeses.
think they ate the ham.
According to ham experts, the meat is still most likely edible, but wouldn't taste like much but rancid fat. That being said, no one ate the ham. I'd eat the ham.
Ugh.
Come on.
It can
You
still
gotta
be
try
eaten,
it
right? It
on.
exists. We can,
Did
we
they
can
just
nibble
put
on
it
it.
back in the counter?
They put it in a freaking museum. They didn't even try one little bite of it.
Ham was invented 7,000 years
There
ago.
you go.
It is
So
definitely
there's an older
hams.
ham out there.
Yeah.
If you know of an older ham, let me know, and then we'll revisit the scores. Question 3. Fruitcake, like Twinkies, have a reputation for lasting forever, and thanks to the presence of rum and candied fruit in your average fruitcake, they are indeed more shelf-stable than your average baked good. So how old is the oldest known fruitcake? Hank goes first this
feel
time.
like.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say 60 years.
Sari.
250 years. Older than the ham.
Okay.
Ooh, old cake.
Older
Rock
than the ham.
cake.
Nothing's older than the ham.
So that's
Bill?
older than America. So that would have been from the 1770s or whatever. I think it's more likely from the Victorian era. There's probably some. If my guess would be, it would be one of those ones that from like Harrods or some British department store that's still around, Marks and Spencer's.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that's. I'm going to say it's from about 1882. So what is that? 140 years.
140 years.
I like the idea that you could just like be on a riverbank and you're like looking at the rocks, and then it just turns out one of them's a fruitcake. It's just like been weathered into a small stone.
You never know. That's why you have to bite every rock. Way back in the late 1800s, a woman named Fidelia Ford had a holiday
I can't
tradition.
believe this.
Make a fruitcake, then put it away and let it age for a year before serving it to her family the next year. Unfortunately, as was bound to happen, she died in 1878 and the cake she had been aging was never served. So,
Do you say 1878 and Bill said 1880?
yep,
I said 1882.
he said, yeah. So the cake is 144 years old. It's been passed down from generation to generation. It's currently with Fidelia's great-great-granddaughter. They didn't serve the cake, which I think is hilarious. They were like, well, no, we know this cake is here, but we are not eating another one of these year-old cakes, please. So,
So they knew it. Yeah, they were like, we love her too much to eat her last cake.
that's why, sure.
And now it's
so
a rock.
knowing the age of the cake, did anyone ever end up eating this cake? It doesn't have to be the whole cake. Just did anyone eat the cake? 3,
Okay,
2, 1.
No.
Yes.
No.
I think that somebody did.
Now wait
And
until
they
you hear
didn't
this.
say.
In December 2003, a previous holder of Fidelia's fruitcake made an appearance on The Tonight Show, during which host Jay Leno took a bite of the cake and said it needs more aging. So Jay Leno ate the cake.
Jay Leno ate
the ancient cake.
Yeah,
what
he
a
ate the old
horrible
cake.
pick for someone to eat the cake.
And that's how he became what he is today. That's his supervillain origin story.
He was already that in 2003.
Yeah.
You think he started wearing all that denim after he ate the cake? Come on. Okay, question 4. Pickling is thought to have originated in Mesopotamia in 2400 BC, which doesn't help you narrow it down much as you tell me how old the oldest pickled cucumber is. Sari's first.
Okay. Ancient Mesopotamia. I feel like we've lost things from then, so slightly more recent. 2,500 years ago.
Old
That's an
Old
old pickle.
Like you buried it in the, you pickled it, you buried it in the ground, forgot about it, and then
Forgot
in some
about it.
ruins, we're like, oh man,
Where's
is
my
this a
pickle?
pickle?
Bill, oldest pickle.
Most pickles are kept in airtight jars, and I feel like if you didn't have an airtight jar, the pickle would disintegrate over a period of 1,000 years or so. So I don't believe that pickles are lying around in tombs like beef jerky might be, or things like that. So I think it'll probably be far more recent. Like it'd have to be in glass. It would have to be in a jar, making it, I don't know, I would say maybe 170 years old.
I didn't think about the glass element
you seem
of it.
You seem so both confident and like you have great. And I just desperately want you to be so wrong.
I probably will be so wrong, but I'm just, my reasoning is sound, but I could be incredibly wrong.
I don't know, but I am totally on your side. And in fact, I'm going to say that that pickles are so delicious that everyone gets eaten within 6 months. So the oldest pickle is 6 months old.
Hank, that's a joke answer. Yeah,
that's an absolutely embarrassing
I'm just saying, I
answer.
think it's somewhere between 140 and 6 months.
So maybe there is a pickle in a jar sitting on a shelf somewhere in former Mesopotamia that's older. But now that Bill says all that, I don't know. The oldest pickle is or was thought to reside in Springfield, Missouri, in the home of Tom Baker, who thinks his grandparents jarred the pickle. This is a little bit fucked up what I'm about to say. In 1845, which is 177 years ago. Bill, how do you know exactly when every pickle is from?
You don't have to be ashamed. I'm a food professional. That's true. I'm a food professional. But
a chill went down my spine when you said.
I appear on the Food That Built America talking about the history of food, but honestly, these are all just guesses. They're educated guesses.
It's like guessing jelly beans in a jar. Your estimation skills are so good for this one bizarre thing.
this one specific.
How old is a pickle? Okay,
this was a wild guess.
Knowing the pickle's 177 years old, it was not a wild guess. You had evidence to back it up and everything.
It was an educated guess. Yes,
Did
it was.
anyone eat this pickle? 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
No.
It is a family heirloom. No one's eating the pickle. They're passing it down
No
from
one's eating
generation
that
to
pickle. You
generation.
gotta keep that pickle, except unless
Give it to
you
Jay
feed it to a
Leno.
talk show host.
Yeah, give it to Jimmy
Yeah.
Kimmel. Give it to.
Don't put it. Yes, don't get it in front of Jay.
Get that. If you get that pickle anywhere near Jimmy Kimmel, he will absolutely eat it.
He's
Any
looking-
of the Jimmys.
Like a feral
will eat that
animal,
pickle.
they'll be going for that pickle. I gotta eat the old food.
This is gonna go huge on TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go real fast. Canning was invented in 1809 by a French inventor who won a prize for helping Napoleon figure out how to transport lots of food to feed his army. But was the oldest discovered canned food from Napoleon's time? You tell me. Bill.
I would say yes, it was. I don't think that. I mean, it was invented. This is the whole. By the way, just as a tangent here, that whole thing. I don't. If you guys saw that TV series about that British ship that came to explore America in the 1840s, that whole thing was, and everybody died in a creepy, mysterious way. They believe it was due to the canning, because this was one of the earliest times that a ship had loaded up with canned food, and there was some kind of poisoning in the solder of the canned food that they all had to survive on. That all made this whole thing crazy. Anyway, to say that, I believe canning was invented around that time, and there's no earlier canning ever, I think.
I mean, that seems all very right. I'm gonna go with 150 just to allow for some cans just a lot of them getting lost.
Sari.
180, right in the middle.
In 1856, a steamboat named Arabia was tooting cargo around Kansas when it hit a branch and sunk to the bottom of the Missouri River. Everybody
There it
on board
is.
got out, but the boat sank to the bottom and was promptly forgotten. Silt built up.
Not all the cans.
Silt
They
built
didn't all
up
get
the
out.
river. They did not. Somebody think of the cans. The river shifted. Flash forward to 1988 when the Arabia was excavated half a mile from the river's current location under 45 feet of dirt in a farmer's field. Inside the rotten hull of the boat, a lot of the cargo sat in completely pristine condition, including clothes, fine china, and canned food that is currently 166 years old.
Oh my God!
And is the oldest known
Wow.
canned food.
Yes.
And they built a whole
stole that
museum
from
around
Hank.
all this stuff that they found that you can go to in Kansas City. But did anybody, while they were excavating or otherwise, pop a can open and have a century-old snack? 3, 2, 1.
No.
Simply put, yes. During excavation,
What? The person died?
it is said that one of the workers ate a pickle just slightly younger than the pickle we just talked about. They didn't die, I guess.
Oh my God!
You know, I believe that pickle is actually older than this guy who said that his grandparents pickled a pickle in 1870 or whatever. It's just like that guy just said that.
Given the fact that people died all the time from poorly canned food back then, that was a risky move that guy made.
It was a super risky.
Yeah, people didn't know that I bet in 1988. that guy
1988, they didn't know that.
He didn't have the internet. He didn't have the internet.
People's lives didn't have value back then. It was
They
the
did.
80s.
He just
It's
didn't know.
true. Life was cheap.
Somebody else ate apples, it said, and they were fine as well. And finally, wine is the poster child of it gets better with age. The earliest evidence of winemaking dates back 8,000 years. Between then and when was the oldest known bottle of still liquid wine bottled?
I am going to say that wine was 350 years old.
Okay. Sari.
200 years.
I could have sworn I've seen a bottle of wine from Roman times in the Smithsonian that still had wine in it. So I'm going to say 2,300 years old.
Found in the tomb of a Roman nobleman in modern-day Germany. The Spire
Glad that I
wine
missed
bottle.
Steamboat One.
It's 1,697 years old. So a generous layer of olive oil was poured on top of the wine, and the whole thing was sealed with wax, explaining why it never evaporated past a cork, because there wasn't a cork. However, the olive oil had the unfortunate side effect of slowly sinking down into the wine, making for some very cloudy, lumpy-looking content that only the bravest of connoisseurs could love. So tell me, was anyone brave enough to try this very, very old wine? 3, 2, 1.
No.
Yes.
No. The museum it's housed in, they won't even let it be open for scientific study, let alone so some snooty rich person can pay a few $1 million to take a single rancid sip of it.
Yeah, I feel like snooty rich people are so powerful that it would have happened. But I guess museums are like, why? No. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, the final scores are Sari with 4, me with 4, Bill with 8, and Sam with 11. But only because Sam designed.
I
a game
cede my
that he was
victory.
pretty
I cede my
impossible for
victory.
him to lose.
Yeah,
Bill-
freaking be a good trick or treater and give some candy to Bill so he can win. After
Yeah.
that stellar
Bill-
performance.
After that amazing performance.
He seems to have traveled back in time to the advent of every creation of every food. So,
That's
congratulations, Bill. You actually win. I cheated.
Well, thank you then. I'm glad. It makes up for my incorrect answers about the shrew and the pica.
amazing. You know about human foods more than you do about eating
Animal food.
True venom,
Yeah, eating grass and stuff.
etc.
Yeah. All right, now it's time to ask the Science Couch, where we've got a listener question for our couch of finely honed scientific minds.
At Daniel Bacchiao asks, do chip bags really need all that air in them?
I think that it's helpful because you don't want all your chips to be chip dust, and so you need a little bit of space in there, right? Is that the thing? Feels like that's the thing. You got a layer of the box. You got the box on the outside, and then you want there to be a lot of insulation on the inside so that stuff can not get squished as it transits the country.
I feel like I don't know. I guess we're not really guessing. I think it is necessary. I think there's some science to it, but that's your purview. Tell us about the science.
Right. Well, this is the thing. You do it exactly what I do, which is I talk out of the side of my mouth, and then Sari tells us the actual.
Oh, okay.
I did the research. So yes, it's called slack fill. Is what in the biz, in the chip biz, when the snack makers make it, that's what you add to the chip bag to add a little cushion. So yes, in some way it is a physical cushion, but it is also a chemical cushion for the chips. So the Earth's atmosphere is around 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen gas, and then 1% other stuff. And like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, oxygen can react. It can oxidate the fats. So chips, like potato chips, are oily and fatty. And so there was this nervousness around the food industry that the chips would turn rancid or stale. And when you leave chips out in air, normal air, breathable air,
That does happen.
then
They
it does
stale
happen.
right up. Yeah.
And so to prevent the chips from going stale or going rancid, then they flush the chip bags with nitrogen gas, which is a non-reactive gas. And so when you have a sealed chip bag, it's actually like closer to 100% nitrogen instead of the 78% nitrogen that's in the atmosphere around us, to keep the chips from going bad.
Is there something about the nitrogen is it nitrogen or any gas that expands at higher altitudes? Because I've heard people tell me about this.
It's any gas.
Their gas, people who've gone mountain climbing, bags of potato chips, the bags have burst, and people mail me chips from all over the world, and about 10% of them have burst as well. And I wonder if they were on planes or something.
That is any gas thing. So you can sort of picture the inside of the chip bag having a certain number of molecules in it, and if it's the same as the outside, then like outside molecules are pushing and inside molecules are pushing, and it's equal. But then as you go higher up, there's fewer outside molecules pushing, and the inside molecules are pushing just as much, and so it gets bigger and bigger. It's like if you took it to space, it would be like a big balloon.
But Pringles, that wouldn't happen with Pringles, presumably, right? Because of the tube.
That's
The tube is sturdy.
A big thing on it, like a little bubble on top.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we can
foil thing.
We can only eat Pringles up here in Montana.
I love a Pringle. Well, if you want to ask the Science Couch your question, because that was fascinating and I did not know about it, you can follow us on Twitter at SciShow Tangents, where we will tweet out topics for upcoming episodes every week. Or you can join the SciShow Tangents Patreon and ask us on our Discord. Thank you to Adam Foote, Micah R.Y., and everybody else who asked us your questions for this episode. Thank you to Bill for coming on our podcast. What are you up to where we can find more of your things?
I have two things to plug. Okay, first of all, as mentioned in my intro, Space 1969 is on Audible. It is an audio book or a podcast, really more of a radio play that I wrote by myself, 5.5 hours long. It stars Natasha Lyonne. Takes place in 1969 in a slightly alternate universe where JFK survived the assassination and decided to get rid of Vietnam and expand the U.S. into space as quickly as possible. And therefore, when the show begins, we have an orbiting space station and we're opening a colony on the moon. Natasha Lyonne stars as a nurse on the space station who was caught up in a hilarious conspiracy that sort of takes over everything. And it's a comedy show. I hope you'll enjoy it. Check it out. Secondly, even more important, if you have an interest in food, and perhaps listening to this thing you do, I have an online Patreon organization called the Steamed Hams Society. Those familiar with The Simpsons know that I wrote the sketch that is colloquial called Steamed Hams. So the Steamed Hams Society is for food enthusiasts from all over the world. We have hundreds of people, including people who are like Instagram food types, chefs, people who are home cooks, who like to talk about food. We have newsletter, we have a live stream, we have all that stuff. And there's a special new level for Simpsons fans where we're going to have live streams with old, writers and producers, animators from The Simpsons, as well as a special Discord channel just for Simpsons chat. So if you have an interest in either of those topics, go to steamedhamssociety.com and sign up, and you will see me on the Discord every day.
I think all of humanity is interested in at least one of those things. So everybody in the whole world should be signed up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for coming on our podcast and being one of our spooky guests.
It was totally my pleasure, and I'm glad that we got to do this topic that is somewhat in my wheelhouse.
Clearly. If you like this show and you want to help us out, it's super easy to do that. You can go to patreon.com/SciShow Tangents and get access to things like our newsletter and our bonus episodes. Second, you can leave us a review wherever you listen. That's very helpful and helps us know what you like about the show. And finally, if you want to show your love for SciShow Tangents, just
tell people about us.
Thank you for joining us. I've been Hank Green.
I've been Sari Riley.
I've been Sam Schultz.
And I was Bill Oakley.
SciShow Tangents is created by all of us and produced by Sam Schultz. Our editor is Seth Glicksman. Our story editor is Alex Billow. Our social media organizer is Julia Buzz Bazzaio. Our editorial assistant is Devoki Chakravarti. Our sound design is by Joseph Tuna Medish. Our executive producers are Caitlin Hofmeister and me, Hank Green. And we couldn't make any of this without our patrons on Patreon. Thank you. And remember, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be lighted.
But one more thing. The cartoonist Scott Adams, who created Dilbert, worked with food scientists in 1999 to create some microwavable vegetarian burritos with non-meat protein, plus some extra mineral and vitamin fortification to hit 100% of your recommended daily amount. So it was kind of like Soylent, but in the frozen food section and called the Dill Burrito. Yes, the Dill Burrito. This preserved food, the Dill Burrito, tanked by 2003, partially because, and this is a direct quote from Mr. Adams, the mineral fortification was hard to disguise, and because of the veggie and legume content, 3 bites of the Dill Burrito made you fart so hard your intestines formed a tail. The end.
Chilling sentence.
It really is a picturesque, more picturesque speech there from Mr. Adams. Really describes that in a nauseating way.